Hello guys, and welcome to my channel. So today we are going to be building a Golang REST API using Gin and MongoDB. So Gin is just basically a Golang API for a Golang framework for building APIs, that is application programming. This is the documentation that we're going to be using. And with me here I have an open folder that doesn't have anything, so that's here is where we're going to be writing our code. So this is going to be our entry file, and then we can initialize some things. Func main, then we can say fmt .println hello world. Want to make sure everything is working. Okay, let's initialize the project. Go mode init, we can call it Golang REST. It's initialized. Let's run it. Go run main.go. Yes, our project now is running. So we're going to install some libraries. We can just come here to go.dev, and then we come here at the packages section. We start of course with Gin. That's the first package we want. So we're going to install it. Come and copy it. I'm going to copy it. So I'm going to go get Gin. Then we also want Mongo, because I'm going to use Mongo using MongoDB here. So I'm also going to download Mongo as well. I'm going to copy that. I'm going to go get MongoDB. So we're going to organize our code into folders. So the first folder we're going to need is the models folder, and then we're also going to need the utils folder. In these models, we're going to have two models. We're going to have the users model. It's going to record the list of users who are going to access the system. That is the API we are writing. And the task model, which is going to store the tasks of each user. So what we can do first, we can first initialize our database so that we can be able to know how to get started. Now, assuming that maybe you don't know how to initialize your database, you can just come here and then you can just copy this and use this. This can be a good starting point. Of course, this one is the connection string that you can use. So let's go and initialize our database. So in this case, we're going to come here. We're going to create a database.go file. Then we're going to say it's going to be a package of utils, and then we're going to create a function called connectDB. Now we're going to come back here, and then we can come and connect this. You can come and get this. You can just copy this. You can just get rid of this. MongoDB. It's going to be a connection string. This is going to be supposed to be v2, and this one is supposed to be v2 version 2. So we're going to click the client, mongo.connect, options.client, then it's going to connect. Then we're supposed to connect to our database. Yeah. So if there's an error, we're going to return the error. But in that case, we just want to log it, so we can use the log.fatal. Then we can say error connecting to the DB, and then we can include the error here. Then after it works, we're going to return a DB equals to client. Now we have to define this to initialize it here, so you can come and say var db to be mongo dot client. Initialize our client here. Then now that works fine. So we can use this in our main file. So we can come here, we can say utils dot connect db. Utils.connect db. Then we can try running it and see if it has connected to the database. Go run win.go. Yeah, if it does not return any error, because it has successfully connected to the database. Now we can start working on our models now. So the first model that we're going to need is you can have the user.go. Sorry. We have user.go. Then we're going to have a task.go. You can start by defining the user first, the user model. So we come here, we say package models. Then we can say type user struct. And then of course we need to define the ID, which is going to be a primitive dot object ID. Then we can define how it's going to be stored in the database, of course using JSON. We can say it's going to be underscore ID, and then we say it's going to be omit empty. But when it's empty, it's going to be omitted. So apart from the ID, we can have a username, which is going to be a string. You can just copy this. I'm going to get rid of this omit empty. I'm going to say username, and then we can copy this as well, paste it, and then here we can just change this to password. Then this one change it to password as well. This is how it's going to be stored in the database. What is the issue here? Could not import. We can just do gomo tidy. Okay, now the issue is solved. We can now come to here to the task. Say package model. Then we're going to have type struct. And then we're going to just use the same format here. So you can just copy this. And then come and do that. So username. So here we're going to have we can maybe have something like title, and maybe description, and then we can also have maybe status. And the status here. Another field you can add, maybe it is created at and updated at. Of course, those two are timed. What is the issue with this one here? This is not supposed to be here, it's supposed to be here. Same to this one here, there's no, yeah, it's supposed to be that way. So we can, now we're done with these two. ID not compatible, struct get. Okay. It's because of this, I think it's because of this spacing here. Yeah, okay. Now, so we are done with our models. So the next thing we're going to do is let's define our routes. We can set up our basic routes so that we can start setting them up. So we can come here, then we write create our routes dot go. It's going to be package routes. Then we can define our function, setup routes. Now these routes, when you're creating routes in Gene, you're going to define a router. So we're going to define our router here. Then we're going to have a Gene.engine here. .engine. Then I'm going to define it like that. So we want our routes to be so that when you're going to come to my API, it should be, of course, HTTP blah blah blah, and then it should be maybe / maybe v1 / API, and then all the rest can follow. So we can define that in Golang using this. So you can do API. It's going to be router dot group router.group, and we can define it. So we're going to have v1/API. Then we can have that. Could not import. Let's just go. If you have such issues, just do go mod tidy and it's going to fix it. So we can come and say, now we need routes here. So several routes are going to be needed. So that means we can now start working on our handlers. So what you're going to do is we're going to come here and we're going to create our handlers folder because we don't want our routes to be here. So I'm going to create a handlers folder. Then I'm going to create maybe, let's say, user handler, user handler.go. Then I'm going to have a package handlers. Then I can say func test. Then it was going to be a context of gene.context. Gene.context. Then I'm going to return that. Then I can maybe say c.json, and then maybe HTTP, HTTP dot status, status okay, and then I'm going to return a gene.h. Then I'm going to say message hello from test. I have successfully created my first handler. So we're going to come back here and we're going to say we're going to register this user handler here, and we're going to say API.get. Can maybe say that get that. We should return helpers, no handlers, I mean handlers because it's defined in handlers dot test. We don't need that. Okay, so we've defined our first handler, and then we have the routes. We've set up the routes, and then now we have to define them here at home. So we can comment these, connect to the DB, to the database. And then we have here, we can go to initialize the router because we need it. We need to initialize the router. So it's going to say router is equal to gene.default. And then we're going to register the routers setup. Going to set up the routes so that we don't cluster this. So we're going to take the routes dot set up routes, then we define the router. Now let's try this out. Then we can also initialize our gene here. You can start the server. Start the server. It is going to set up our server because initially when we run it, we can maybe say our port, or let it just use the default port. Then we can say maybe router dot run, then we do that. Let's try run it. Let me see what happens. Yeah, so we can go to this route here, and then let's see what is going to return. We can come here and say localhost 8080. It's not going to return anything because we're not going to. So we're going to go vision by one, then API. V1. Isn't it returning anything? Listening to server. Yeah, this is what these are not talking about. V1. Okay, let me try using HTTPie. Let me use HTTPie. So let me set it up. Let me add it to the view. So this is the HTTPie, and we can see here our route are set successfully. Good. So now we can proceed. Can lock this. So now we can start writing our setup. So we're done with this. We're done with this. We're done with this. Now routes. Let's come now to the users handler. So the first thing we're supposed to do is we need to set up a route whereby our users can be able to register. So of course we can create this function now. You can just call it register, and then we're going to call our model. So we're going to say our user, then our models dot user. model.user, let's confirm we have it. Yeah, model.user, there it is. After defining it, we have to bind it. If r, we're going to bind it. See that should bind with JSON, of course. Should bind with JSON. We're binding that user, and then we check if there is an error. If error is not equal to nil, we're going to return c.json, and we're going to say http dot status bad request. Then we're going to return our information to the user that there is an error. There is an error binding it into JSON. Then we can say error. So this is binding it into JSON. And then now, when you're creating a user, remember we said that we need the ID, and then we have a username, then we have a password. For security reasons, we have to store this password. We have to encrypt it, so we have to install another library. Called bcrypt. So you can come here and look for bcrypt. And find bcrypt for hashing passwords. Copy it, and then you come here, we get it. Go get bcrypt. That was fast. So now after we have bind it, we can now hash the password. In case you don't know how to use these libraries, like the documentation, just come. This is where you find the documentation. That's so hard to follow sometimes. But you can always check it out, and then you'll have an idea of how to do that. So we're going to hash our password first. So we can call it hashed password. Of course, bcrypt returns two responses. It returns the hashed password, and if there is an error, generate from password. Then we define our byte, and then we're going to have the user dot password, then bcrypt dot default cost. Of course, we're going to check if there's an error. Just copy that, can paste it, so that if error is not equal to null, you can say we have an issue. It's going to be status internal server error. Then you can return the error, or maybe you can even say, because we're checking if we are able to hash it, then we can say error hashing password, so that we know we had an issue with the hashing of the password. After successfully hashing it, we can always do this. We can, this is supposed to be, so it's causing an error, not equal to nil. And just let's get rid of this. Yeah, that's fine. So if we have successfully set the password, you can just come and say user dot password equals to hashed password. Also, you convert it into a string, and then we can set the ID now. We can now say user dot ID equals to primitive dot new object ID. Primitive dot new object ID. Then after setting the password, now we can connect to the database. We can say r equals to utils dot db dot database and then now we define our database. Now we need the database name. This brings us to the environment variables because we're going to be using them a lot and it's not advisable to put them in here. So we're going to need a package called for grabbing env variables from env. So we just have there's a certain data to go .env. Let's see. Yeah, this one here. You can grab it, then we install it. Let's say go get package. It has successfully installed. Then we can come here and say we have to create it first. We can create a .env file .env. Now after creating this env file, we can define our DB name. Then we can call it maybe task manager. Yeah, so we're going to come here and say os dot get env. We give them the DB name. The DB name, and then we're going to get the collection. The collection, of course, is going to be another collection of users. And then we're going to insert one, and then our context. The good thing with the VS Code is going to just giving you the way how to write these things. Context background, and then we're going to insert the user. Where do we have an error from? A new variable from there. Okay. Then we're good to go. What's wrong with this? Error importing June. Go more tidy. Go more tidy should solve this issue. So after all this, we have to also check for this error here. So if we have a problem inserting, we should inform the user. So we're going to take that if error not equal to name. See that test has failed. So now you can say we failed to create user. And then after that, now we can inform the user in case everything was successful. HTTP dot status created. Is 200 code 200, and then we can return this information we can either return the user or we can return a text information telling the user that the user was created. Yeah, that is our first function. We can come back here and we say register. I guess say that it's register, and then the handler dot register, and you're good to go. We can test this out. And then another thing, we can add our port here. We can add our port here, so that maybe if you want to change the port, you can add our port, then maybe say port maybe 80 or 80 82 81, whatever you want. You can add it there, so that here when you come to the main, here's the main, you can now capture that. So now let's load the env. Can load the env file in our main file. Then we say if air equals to go dot env dot load. Let's load our env file, and then we have to say air. If air is not equal to nil, we're going to log dot println. Then we are going to say error loading env file. Yes, and then now we can come down here and we can say port. We can load it now from the env file. So os dot get env, and then we can say port because we've called it port. We called it port. Then we can say if port equals to empty. If there is no port, then we are going to say the port equals to 8080. That is the default as for us. Otherwise, I'm going to log fatal router.run with the port number. Not used. Oh, yeah, it's supposed to be that way. I don't know why it's doing this, but you can just do god mode tidy and it should be able to solve it. Yep, it has found it. So we're good to go. So let's test it out. I'll let it clear out the error first. Then we can test our handler. So we can try registering a user. And now let's run our server. Let's try running our server. It should be able to run. We got an error. Good. Okay, yeah, you can test it now. So you can come to HTTPie, and then we can come here to body text, and then we put a register. Now we have a JSON file, we have the username, and then we have the password. So my username, I can maybe say user. Just call this user, and then let's maybe say user, 2, 3, 4. So let's try posting that. Oh, port, we've changed the port. We have changed the port to 8081. Then we post that API viewer and register. Where's the routes? V1 API. Oh, this is supposed to be post, not get. Sorry, this is supposed to be post. That's why debugging is very, very important. You know how to debug code. So we've posted. And then let's see if that's going to work. Yeah, we're good to go. Let's try posting again. Voila, so we have successfully created a user. We can create another user. We can call them user2, and then the password is going to be user2. Good. Now let's add a method to get the user. Let's add a method to get the user so that we can be able to see the users. Can add a method to get all the users. So you can just comment this and say register a new user. Okay, let's get all users. So you can say a function func get users. Of course, it's going to be a C gene context gene dot context, and then we can define our database. So here what we're going to do is going to get the users, a list of users. So first things first, we're going to need this one here. But we're going to need it here from up to here. So you can come and define our cursor. Cursor with an arrow course. You can come and say that utils.db .s then getting v then dot find. We're going to find, then context dot background, and then we are going to bson m. Now since we just want to grab all the users, we are not going to put any filters here, but otherwise if we wanted to get an ID or something, we're going to put it there. And then after that, you're going to also of course check the errors. We're going to come and say if error is not equal to nil, you're going to return a JSON. This one with HTTP dot status internal server error, and gene.h. Then I'm going to say error. You can say maybe failed to load users. If it failed to load the users, okay. And then otherwise we're going to defer, closing the cursor dot close, and then context background, and then after that we're going to define a list of users, the users model, so that we can bind it. And we're using this because it's a list of users that we can return all. And then we're going to say if cursor dot all. Then of course we define the context dot background again. And then we're going to get the users. Then we're going to check for errors. If error is equal to nil, then we're going to say HTTP dot status internal server error, and then gene dot h. Then we're going to say error. So we had an error passing these users to JSON. Error passing users. Otherwise, modify return, and then we're going to. But if it was successful, we're going to say http.json. No, but status. Okay, and then we're going to return the users. So what you've done here, we get users, we're creating this, loading this from the database. Then we are handling any error, so that if you don't find them, then we are deferring, closing the cursor, which is supposed to process the users, and then we are processing them here. And if there's an error, we're returning the error, otherwise we're returning the list of users. So we are going to come here. No, we're going to come to the routes. Can close this because we don't need it anymore. So you can come here and say api.get. Then we can define this. You can just say users. Then we're going to say handlers dot get users. Yep. And we're good to go. Here we can also log something. Here I can log Twitter connected to database. Okay, we can run this now. Exit. Why did it exit? Okay, I think this will go. It's just a minute. Users, user.json. Defer cursor close. Cursor dot close. And then we can come here, return error passing. Routes handlers. Okay, that log dot title has part of the if. Okay, so no problem. So we're going to try and get the list of users. So we're going to get rid of this, and then we say users, because that's how we defined it. Not found. Why has it not been found? API users. Oh, sorry. It's supposed to be get, not post. So I change this one to get. and then it returns a list of users. So we have the username and the password. So we have two. So now we can add more routes. We can add more routes, like the one maybe we want to get a user by ID. We can add one for getting a user by ID. User handler, get user by ID. Because of time, I'm just going to copy it. We have that. We can get a user by ID. So what we do here, we define an ID, and then we have the user ID, convert it into object ID to hex. Then we check an error, get the ID, and then we can also get a function to delete a user. I'm just going to copy and paste it here. This code I'm going to post it on GitHub. So we have an ID here. We also make sure that the ID is the right format. We get that, we delete it, and then otherwise we return this. And then you can also have a function to update a user. To update a user, and then of course you're going to get the user ID, and then you confirm that the ID is appropriate, and then you bind it, and then you update it. Yeah, so we can register these routes. Just come here. We can get a user by ID. And let's get user by ID, and then you can delete a user first by ID. Can delete a user, and then you can also update a user. So api.put also going to need an ID with update user. Okay, let's test these routes. We'll post this code on GitHub. So we can get the users. Can try getting a user by ID. Just copy this ID. Then we do that. Yeah, you can get a user by ID. But if you wanted to update the particular user, maybe change this into capital and come here and change to put not found. Why is it saying not found? And there's a put here, use yeah, there's been a mistype here. It's supposed to be this way. Yeah, that's why coding can just spend a whole lot of time because of such silly mistakes. So you should know how to debug code. The best way to know how to debug code is to actually code and debug. Okay, so let's try that again. That should be able to work. Let's try getting it. Yeah, it's updated. Good. Let's just return it back to normal the way it was. And then you have that, so you can get it. Let's try getting users again. Let's try deleting this one. Deleting account. Okay, what have I forgotten to add? API.delete. Yeah, also forgotten to add a forward slash here. Hope there's not any other mistake I've made. So we can delete. Okay, can get that. It's not going to be found because we have deleted the user. Good. Wow, so guys, I think this video has gone long enough. I think I'm going to have to do a part 2 so that we can get into the, because now we're just handling the users. Now we're going to do a part 2 whereby we're going to deal with the to-dos handlers. So guys, see you in part 2. Thank you for watching.